Different time of day to be doing a recording, but I'm kind of stumped. I'm stopped dead in my tracks from making progress. Still need half a sheet of sheetrock to finish off the ceiling. Got that side of it all mudded up and taped. And ripped the fuel tank out of Sarah's Tahoe. Just about had a nervous breakdown doing it. What a pain in the ass. Some butthole made the fuel pump, the top, which is exposed to the top of the tank, out of steel. Steel frickin' fuel lines. Are you serious? Oh my god. So the fuel lines were basically pouring out fuel. The base of the fuel line where it went into the fuel filter, or the fuel pump cap. So every time she hit a gas, her engine got some gas and the outside of the car got the other half. It's brutal. So I got that part on order, won't be here till tomorrow, hopefully. So that's it, I'm done, I'm stuck. Can't go fishing. I guess I get ready to go fishing, but I got a bunch of other stuff done. Got the horses dewormed and stuff, but anyway, I got some stuff to share. So, I'm gonna do that. And also got the GoFundMe link for our friends. We're having some sad times right now. Friends of us here at the channel are having some sad times, so I shared their GoFundMe in yesterday's video in the description, and I think I commented with it too. And I'll share it again today in the video description link. Video description of this video again, alright? 50 cents, whatever you got. It's nothing to help. It's easy to help somebody, right? It's easy to help. Hopefully. Now, let's see what we got going on. Mark, this is red. This is titled UK Bigfoot Infrasound Nightmare. You should know how people's puzzles are coming together right now too. Mine's been changing a little bit, but coming along. Hi Steve, I'm saying my story 2 or 3 times now. You've never read it, sadly. Please, Steve, tell my ordeal to warn others. It would mean so much to me. I really hope this time you decide to read my nightmare. Please, many thanks, Rob Topless. Rob, it's not a decision, man. It's just when I get them in front of my eyes, and that's it. That is it. Hi Steve, this took place over 7 months, and I've attached my lie detector test. This is quite a wild story. You can read it in full or in part, and I've kept the images, 2 before and after images also like you asked for. First part of my story is quite pleasant, where over a number of months I kept capturing a lot of oddities on my audio recorder, as well as it being handled each time in an area where I'd heard stories of these beings in the Midlands of the UK. I used to enjoy listening to this audio and relaxing to it. I actually grew quite fond of the characters involved, who were a big adult, 1 or more gobby teen loud ones, as well as a younger one I fondly named Monkey Boy. I intruded into the forest, which in the UK are only small in size, so it did not take me long to discover their likely sleeping spots, play areas, etc. And I became quite wise as to their calls also, which were fake owls calling, sonic barks, and odd yells, as well as SS low frequencies. Little did I know how dangerous these evil, merciless things can be. Second part, the evil episode. They turned on me after stupidly putting up my game cam on the train line opposite my old apartment after hearing them go past, plus I'd had some previous warning signs such as a bluff charge which I ignored. On that night, one simply followed me home with its eyes. Then 2 nights later, the harassment started by them coming to my home. This is where I'm going to have to ask you to have complete faith in my integrity. Test attached. And I myself struggled making sense of the crazy things that are wrecking my mind and life in general. I live alone and they turned on me at the start of the corona lockdown and in numbers, harassing me on a nightly basis, as well as having to purchase on the cliff behind my home where infrasound was launched from. I know this because I thought later into this that I would smart them and prove this evil attack, and purchased a heat camera at nearly 600 lira? Is that euros? I'm not familiar with that dollar sign. Only to find it flushed out red when I was pointing it at them. I have the video of this, and I eventually worked out whenever it did this, tied in with the location of one hit on the cliff. I was drove out of my home by infrasound, and I discovered somehow they followed me to my next home. Electromagnetic signature theory fits my case, I've later found. The evil harassment continued, and I stupidly moved into a roof apartment and had harassment night and day. I'm a truthful person. A teepee also appeared opposite my new home, set a little back in the trees, and literally, I'd get home, then 10 minutes later it would be on me. The weapon of choice was evil infrasound, never varying from this evil weapon. I got very vocal expressing how much I hate these beings after infrasounding me for 3 months and spat and cursed at them. I was at my wit's end, and clearly this did me no favors on reflection. From the moment the all too familiar beings turned on me, I noticed an odd hum in the atmosphere when I opened my window, and yes, I know infrasound is non-audible, but clearly these creatures overlap between the audible and non-audible at times. I've not recognized the seriousness of them coming to harass me at first, and even laughed and joked to myself until I started to feel the effects. What an evil, underhand weapon. Non-detectable, yet in 2 nights I felt terrified, fearing Bigfoot was going to smash in my balcony door and kill me at any point in time. My hearing was terribly affected, and every noise terrified me. I could hear big grumbling, Bigfoot, fake owl calls, young monkey boy, loud banging, etc., and fully believe they made use of not only the cliff behind my much-loved home of 8 years, but also the balcony of the empty apartment below. Remember, all this was going off whilst the UK was on a coronavirus lockdown. I would lose my balance as a result of my inner ear fluids mixed by the frequency, which affects your balance. Also at that point they started harassing me onwards. I had an evil electrical interference in all media I played, whether it be the Sky Dish, streaming, or even watching an original DVD, no matter what device, nor what room. Too much of a coincidence to not be an effect of the infrasound. My head and heart knew I was being affected terribly by this attack, but could make no sense how. Bigfoot voodoo, I called it, until I found out online about the claimed infrasound abilities. This is a weapon that drives you suicidal and feeling isolated, as well as questioning whether you're going crazy. I often went outside, pissed off, cursing at the scumbag, saying, "If you want me, I'm here. Snap my neck or leave me the heck alone." Of course, this never worked, and in fact, nothing worked. They just kept infrasounding me without mercy. It was like a fun pastime to these evil beings. I had to stuff a full roll of loft insulation and air mattresses at my window, and that minimized the attack somewhat, but still I nearly got drove mad by this, and the police came out and I got sent to the hospital. Of course, they did not believe me. For reference, people, you cannot fully defend against this evil weapon other than to remove yourself away from it and amongst other people. I know as when in my second home that it followed me to, I was now wise to the weapon, but in the predicament that I had no idea I could be followed, and had moved into a roof apartment. The infrasounding of me continued to the point where I nearly killed myself, it was a living hell, and I had no way of stopping it. I used to put foam ear bungs in my earmuffs. Also, yet you still feel and hear the frequency through the bones in your head at times. I used to wear these as well as have to have a pillow or two on my head which minimized the effect, but I was still affected badly by it. I'm a totally sane individual with no history of mental illness in the family, and I'm fine now that they have stopped attacking me. I wanted to be dead, as my life had become such poor quality, and this is solely due to these evil cryptids. I tried everything to stop the evil, merciless cryptids, to include gifting. They would eat it and then carry on attacking me. Prayers playing all day. Pissed it off, but that's all. mantras playing all day. Really pissed it off. Saying sorry, etc. Made no difference. Leaving me to find my only pleasure left was insulting my attacker and its satanic, low-life way of attack. I kid you not when I say over 100 hours, in fact way more, was devoted to infrasounding me by multiple cryptids. I'll include my integrity test, which I felt was needed as I am aware how crazy my story is, and I paid $395 as my honesty is worth proving. First photo, I stopped to take a pic of the massive leaning tree, which was root end up. Show of strength. The peeper in this first photo also. Other things I've seen or have firm belief in from my experience. Orbs certainly accompany these beings, red, white, orange. They have spiritual abilities. I've seen black shadow / spirit form Bigfoot 4 times and physical 1 time. A body mass shifting, then re-peeking from behind a tree once. They can infrasound when in spirit form as well as scare you by running up on you with sounds of the big heavy feet. They can also infrasound for many hours. Young one kept lookout for my return, then helped big one locate me from room to room. I've seen self-illuminating eyes numerous times in the trees and bushes. These things are the biggest mistake of my life. I hate them. They are terribly evil. These creatures were always one step ahead of everything I did and found every device, plus are able to thwart even the latest technology. The game cam footage was terribly affected by them. Both sound and picture terribly distorted. When it's a good 20 MP camera, you cannot outsmart these with electronics. Even heat camera, they could just flush out red. I've also been zapped or physically hit by sound, and they started harassing me at work also. Sorry if this is long. You can read in part or in full. Massive leaning tree plus peaker. Young lookout. This is the way they look. This is what they look like. Alright, man. Well, 2 cryptid scumbags screenshot. Empty void, no heads. Screenshot. Alright, man. I got the pictures. Your lie detector test sounded a little odd. I haven't had anybody offer that up, but we didn't see it. It sounds like you went through a little bit of hell. I don't know what it is that's attacking you or you had a bad experience with. I'm definitely not the guy, right, to have the answers, but it sounds somewhat familiar with what that man went through in the southern U.S. when something attacked him, pinned him, and tormented the living shit out of him, basically broke him. Is that a typical classic Sasquatch, Almas, Yeti, Sabe, Bigfoot? I don't know. I really don't know. I do know there's variations of things going on out there without a doubt. And it seems that there's been a handful of negative experiences from the UK. Edgar had a very negative experience with something absolutely bizarre, supernatural, right? There's been more than a few people reporting real alarming, real weird, paranormal, what you'd describe as shit going on in the UK. And I don't know if it is directly related to what's going on in my backyard. I don't know, man. I know we all have crazy ass, weird, unexplainable stuff going on for real on the planet, around the planet. I know that for a fact. That's not even a question. But anyway, I'm glad it ended for you. You should email back and let us know how it ended. How'd you make it go away? And I do know there has been North American researchers, and man, I'm really tired right now. My brain's farting, but I had a generous researcher from, I think, Alaska, sent me his book. I haven't been able to share anything out of it yet. He said to share away stories from it, and he had one follow him back to his home when he got out of his car, and he heard the exact same noise come out of the bush right behind the house when he got out of his car after a 4-hour drive or some damn thing from his research area, where he heard the exact same noise there, etc. So these beings do follow you home. That is a solid pattern. It's kind of creepy too, right? But anyway, I hope that helped hearing your story read, and I wonder if anybody from the UK or anywhere else is going to have something similar to report in, if they've had a similar experience. Hell, being harassed in this form, possibly. We're going to hear about it if somebody did. be safe out there, man. Maybe give us an update to let us know how you're making out, and if you've seen anything else or learned anything else or run into anybody else who's had the same experience around you, maybe, possibly, right? I grabbed a handful of these from the inbox from way back in a folder I had with like over 1,500 emails in it. Excuse me, I hope they haven't been read. We're going to find out. I don't think they have. Taltan sees Sasquatch near Ross River, Yukon. The Taltan, that's a native communities tribe in northern British Columbia, the Yukon, probably South Alaska possibly too, right? Hi Steve, I'm an avid viewer and supporter of your channel. Would like to share my story with you. I live in North Vancouver and I was born in Whitehorse and raised in Ross River, Yukon. I assume you know exactly where that is. Yeah, I do. I'm from the Taltan Nation in and around Telegraph Creek, BC, and the other half of me is Russian. I'd like to meet up with you in person to share my story with you. I know available time is a premium for most of us, but I think you will like this backstory and my encounter with two of these beings. They freaked the shit out of me. My contact info is, I'll leave that out. My cell, I got it. Text is fine too. I just watched your last posted video and you mentioned you're coming to town, Vancouver. So if you have time, I'm more than happy to meet up with you for a coffee or a bite to eat, Grant. Cool. Hey Grant, now that I'm over here, not too far from you, I wonder what you'd think about, if you're still watching, coming over here, jumping into the man cave here and hanging out. And sharing what you got. You can stay here too if you want. Or I'll hook up with you over there. One or the other. We'll get together for sure. I hope you're still watching. And I'll save this. And I'm going to get ahold of you as soon as I get this room done. Alright? I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot of settings around there. And some other people from your community have emailed me in the past too. Appreciate you, man. Looking forward to meeting you. Alright. Who's this? It's titled, Hello Sir. Hello back. I believe you, Les, and Dave are on the right track. I was born and raised not far from where Les was raised on the Bruce Peninsula in Ontario. Left here to northern Alberta in the GP/Peace River Grand Prairie/Peace River area in '79 when I was 16 years old. I spent the next 20 years there in the bush working. Helicopters and 4x4s. Logging, slashing, hunting, fishing, etc. Anyway, long story short, I witnessed a lot of strange shit. From red eyes at night, high in a tree that sent my Cree wife and 2 kids, along with her sister and her kid, racing to our truck and locking the doors. I said it was just lights from a plane. They knew I was trying to just calm them. At the same time, seconds later, about 6 cow elk came crashing through the down deadfall of peckerpole poplar trees, lit up about 40 to 50 yards in the bush broadside beside my fire where I was finishing cooking all of our dinner. The elk were running straight towards the red eyes, high in the tree at the far corner of the clearing, about 60 to 70 yards from our fire. Needless to say, they never left the truck, and I had to wrap all our hot cooked food in tinfoil, put it in the back of the truck, and we left for home. This is on the south side of the Wapiti River, and the west side of Big Mountain Creek, where the mouth drains north into the Wapiti. Anyway, that's just one event of 3 or 4. I've never had a clear sighting, but that's not counting my many other being lit up from above while cooking at my fire in 2006, back to a red-eye monkey men in a huge cedar outside my aunt's home across the peninsula on Lake Huron shore in about 1969, etc., etc. Over the years. Your video of the half-mooned lights through the bush didn't surprise me. They're not eyes. Took me till I was over 40 years old to tell a few close friends and lone family member of just a little of what was happening. Gotta hold back my name, man. Otherwise, our quarry workers would never quit hounding the shit out of me. Keep up the good work and don't stop digging, Mr. TJE. This email was sent many weeks ago, but not allowed. It's about 4:30 p.m. here, so 1:30 p.m. by your time. Spent my life from 16 years old to almost 40 living... Oh, that started again? Okay, hold on. Spent my life from 16 years old to almost 40, living and working in the bush on the east side of the Rockies. Logging, slashing, oil field grid slashing, heli in and out every day, etc. Clear cutting for a new highway, Bighorn number 2 from Grand Prairie to Grand Cache. Way more I'd like to say, but I'm a two-finger typer on this techno shit. Plus, I don't like/trust the techno. Okay, man, I don't know how long ago you originally emailed it in, but okay, that was in January, February 2020. And I hope you're still here watching, and you're still with us, healthy and alive. You are in the epicenter of action for Alberta, right around there, all around there. Big time. Big time. Grand Prairie, Peace River, especially the Peace River, right? Eastern slope of the Rockies. I used to spend a lot of time in a guide camp on the eastern slope of the Rockies, but in northern BC. Never had anything happen in that camp, but I did have some crazy shit happen between there and Fort Nelson on the north side of Alaska Highway. I got pictures too, I'll share with you guys one day, I'll dig that up. But anyway, get those 2 fingers greased up and type me some more, alright? Send me in what you've seen. Send me some more of what you've seen and where, alright? I'm really, really curious, and you could possibly help a lot of people, okay, man? So if you're still here, still following, do some 2-finger tap dancing on that keyboard and get some more to us, alright, man? Appreciate you. This is titled My Encounter. First of all, thank you for taking the time to share the encounters of real witnesses to this phenomenon. I live in upstate New York. I'm 62 years old. I've been hunting and fishing since I was a kid with my dad. I had my encounter when I was 14 years old. I went with my parents to my grandparents' house on a midsummer Sunday afternoon. My dad and I would always take the time to walk back to a reservoir behind their house, about a 20-minute walk through the woods to go fishing. The reservoir is a freshwater supply for the local area and is patrolled by local ENCON officers. That day, my father decided he wasn't going to go back with me. I've gone a few times by myself before, and he told me, like usual, to stay on the trail, and I wasn't back in an hour or so, he was going to come and find me. I walked back to the reservoir, started fishing, and immediately felt weird, like I was being watched. In fact, after about 20 minutes, all I wanted to do was leave. So I did, and headed back on the trail, only to hear leaves crunching and snapping of twigs above me on the hillside. I'd stop, the noise stopped. I'd go, I would hear it again. I thought I was going to meet up with the ENCON officer following me out of the woods to arrest me or write me a ticket, but I was wrong. I then heard a loud crunch above me, and I stopped and thought, okay, I'm going to stand here and wait for him to come down to me. Maybe he will just warn me and not get my dad involved. But then a tree above me started shaking violently back and forth. I bent down to see the base of the tree. I could clearly see the base of that tree, but there was nothing there shaking it. Then there was a loud thump in front of me on the trail. I could feel it in my feet, but saw nothing. Then a super loud yell in my face that I felt rumble my chest and vibrate my whole body. It was at that point I took off running as fast as I could out of there. I didn't look back until I got to my dad's car. I stood there catching my breath, waiting for something to come out of those woods, but nothing did. I didn't see anything there confronting me that day on the trail, and I never told anyone about this, especially my dad, for fear of him doubting me. I still don't know what that was, but maybe with more people coming forward with encounters, we'll be able to get the truth out. Thanks again, Mike from New York. Ooh. That's a very nasty thing to do to anybody, especially a boy. That's a real shitty one. And you know what? You're not the only one though. There's definitely a pattern there. And that's one of those stories, one of those people that witnessed something that would possibly have contacted some of those previous people and they would have ignored them or changed the story or just brushed them off altogether, laughed at them and ridiculed them, right? Isn't that brutal? But not anymore. Not anymore. Welcome to the club, man. You found your people. You found your place. We got your back. You're not alone, alright? Not alone. This next one is titled The Howl That Still Curls My Hair. Good day. I hope you're doing well. Feel free to use my story or part of it as it runs a little long. Last fall, early winter 1980, in the rural mountains of North Carolina near the Virginia-Tennessee border in an area called Rollins Creek. I think I read it. Yeah, we read this. Sorry, read this one. No big deal. Let's hope I didn't read this one. We're going to find out in a minute. It's not marked as read, but I've had phone grief from hell, right? Still no proper phone. Anyway, my Bigfoot experience in North Florida. Please tell my story. Hello, and nice to finally be able to tell you my story. I watch your YouTube vids all the time, and I also have a story to tell you. Okay, I'm currently bed-bound and disabled from a horrible accident at work. 44 years old, and around 2005 I hit a 3,000-pound bull with a semi in Florida. And after I went to a few years of therapy, I was able to go back to work. And then around 4 years ago, I slipped and fell at my job 3 times in 2 days. And due to both accidents compounding, it's got me bound and I can't walk. So that's my current situation. That sucks. But back when I was around 21 or 22 years old, I was living in North Florida, in Cottondale, Florida to be exact. And a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to go hunting on a piece of land that his dad owned. And my friend's dad owned a huge piece of land, like over 2,000 acres, in Compass Lake in the hills, Florida, about 15 to 20 miles from my house. So I remember I had a 30-06 rifle and my friend had a 308 rifle. And we left to go hunting around 4 p.m. this evening. And I remember the drive into the property was all unfamiliar to me. Now I have hunted in a track close to this property before, but I still didn't know the layout of this property. I told my friend just before we parked that what if we got separated, and that I've never been here before, and I was also worried because I left my truck at my house, and we drove to the property where he was going to hunt in a 2-man tree blind / stand. My friend laughed at me and said, "Nothing to worry about." And he knew the land and he said I was worried about nothing. Well, he was wrong. We got to where he was parking the truck and had to walk around a little over a solid hour from the truck to the hunting stand. And so as we were walking in, I noticed that there was literally no animal life around us at all. No birds, no squirrels, no deer tracks, or any sign that life ever lived there. It was just a quiet, almost dead feeling walking into these woods. We walked a fire trail the most of the way back to the hunting stand. So at, I don't know, around 5:30 p.m., we made it to the stand, and so we climbed up and got settled in. Well, I'm a great thinker and problem solver, so I was sitting there thinking that it was 5:30 p.m., and so it gets dark at around 8 p.m. or so this time of year, and that he was hunting. And so it gets dark at around 8 p.m. or so this time of the year that we was hunting, so in my head I did the math and told my friend in a soft voice, so we didn't scare away any of the deer, hogs, or anything. I told my friend that, hey bud, we might want to head out in about an hour or a little over, because I certainly didn't want to walk on a track that I wasn't familiar with back to the truck in the dark. So again, my friend laughed at me and said, no worries, brother, and that we had plenty of time before we had to leave. So an hour went by, then more time, and so finally I said to my friend, look, I'm headed back with or without you, but I'm leaving now. So my friend said okay and called me a wuss. So we climbed down, headed back to the truck with maybe 30 to 45 minutes left of daylight. So we're about halfway back, or a little closer, and just like that, we had no light at all. It was dark, we didn't bring a flashlight with us, and I remember walking behind my friend when I started smelling a dead and wet dog or animal smell. And it was awful. It would gag a maggot, it smelled so bad. And now around 20 minutes or so from the truck, we was walking on a small trail, or fire trail, and we was getting closer to a little island of trees that sits right in the middle of the trail just in front of us, around 50 yards away from us. And as we got closer, the smell got stronger and stronger, but we just put it off as a dead buzzard or a dead skunk. So about 20 yards from the thick island of trees in front of us, and all of a sudden there was a big bang in that island of trees in front of us. My friend and myself stopped dead in our tracks. I told my friend, hey, what's that? What was that? And he was so scared he couldn't even answer me at all. So I told my friend, look, something big is in that island of trees just in front of us. And now, how are we getting out of here and back to the truck? Just as my friend was about to say something, there was a noise that I'll never forget. It was a roar. It was so loud that the decibels shook the ground around us. So I grabbed my friend and said, we have to go now. So we started walking away from the island of trees, forward, the right-hand side, as to stay as far away as possible from the Bigfoot in those thickets of trees. And around 10 steps into it, it started to roar again and hit the trees with a log or something. So to be honest, I'm 250 pounds of muscle. I've been a football athlete all my life, and I've never been scared of anything. But this was different. I know that the BF would rip me and my friend apart with no problems. So, to be honest, I dropped my gun and ran for my life back to the truck. As my friend still had his gun, and he was only 160 pounds wet, and still made it back to his truck about 2 minutes before he did. And that's saying something, because of our sizes, that my friend should have beat me back first, and I remember I didn't know this property as well. So when we jumped in the truck, I looked at my friend and I said, I've dropped my gun. Let's go now. So I remember we drove home in less than half the time I should have. And when my friend dropped me off at my house, he said to me, what the F was that? And I told him that he knew what it was, and that I told him I'll never go anywhere near that property again. And my friend said, well, you dropped my dad's prized gun, and that he had to go back and get it. And I told him, good luck, and not to go out at dark, ever. So I never told anyone what happened that night, but the next day my friend showed up at my house and he said that he found the gun but no signs of anything else. I hope you tell my story on your YouTube channel, and please believe me and my story. I have nothing to gain by lying and telling you my story. It's been over 20 years from the Bigfoot experience I had, and now I'm 44 years old with serious health problems, and felt I have to tell my story, and myself and my friend are lucky to get out of there alive. Please tell my story and please believe me. You found your people, man. You're all good here. You're safe. We got you. That's some shitty deal, man. You're laid up at 44? Seriously, that sucks. Man, I hope it's changed since you wrote this in. March 19th, 2020 is when you sent this to me. Hope you're still with us. And you know by now, after you've been listening this long, you know that's a pattern, right? It's a global pattern. Getting roared at, and there's nothing you can do about it to change what happened. You experienced it. There's no way out of it. So, good for you sharing that here, man, with everybody through me. Crazy. Shitty. I haven't had the roar yet. I hope I don't. Wow. Proof of delivery and my stories. Alright, I mark you as read. Steve. Okay, I've sent you a couple emails to the ProGuide66 email. Oops. I spoke of my time in Alaska as a junior guide, but my story goes way back from that. I've always remembered having some recognition of things around me that others might not or wouldn't admit to, i.e., seeing my great-great-aunt in the kitchen of my great-aunt's house at the age of 3. She has long since passed when I saw and talked to her. Other things I would see or hear were always explained away after that, and I was trained, as I believe all are, to not believe what we see or hear and taught to rationalize it, then ignore it, i.e., dull or negate our sixth sense. My Bigfoot experience goes back to 1979 when I was 19 years old. I always was a pretty outdoorsy person and always hunted and fished with my grandfather and friends. I also used to hike on the Appalachian Trail, some in North Georgia. We had a lake place nearby, so it was an easy access to the trail. The AT is where it begins for me. I usually went with friends to hike and never really noticed anything out of the ordinary. Then I went to have a hike one day by myself and hiked to a saddle area between two peaks where I would sit and enjoy a pipe, regular tobacco, and read some poetry. It was my esoteric phase, so when I got to the saddle I would take off my backpack and get my supplies out for a sit. I'd swung the backpack off and set it down and heard a snap of a stick on the ground behind me. In my mind, I was thinking, oh cool, I might see a deer or bear. And at that time, Georgia was in the rebuilding stage of both these species. But when I turned to see what the sound came from, it was a something. I immediately had that flush feeling all over my body like, oh shit, I've been caught by the principal. But no, it wasn't a deer and it wasn't a bear. It was a being about 15 to 20 yards down the saddle hillside below me. And it was traveling uphill, as though it was cutting over the saddle to make better time in its travel. It was eye level with me, so it must have been 8 to 10 feet tall. Huge. I can't guess weight. I hate to say typical, but it was a typical brownish, fully haired, no neck linebacker sabe. We locked eyes and the fear went away, but it looked as if it was thinking, oh shit, I've been seen too. It stood there for only a few seconds, then turned back down the hill and side hill back the way I had come from the Jeep. It took about 4 strides and just was gone. It was winter, snow leaves on the trees, midday and sunny. It was just gone, as if it disappeared. I picked up and went back to the Jeep and went back to the cabin at the lake. I personally think they are interdimensional beings with extreme intelligence and the capacity to telepathically communicate/control thoughts. Just my opinion from stories about some encounters. I never did tell anyone, as I knew people would call BS, as I'd been known to say stuff like this since I was young, so my folks always said he's just fibbing. Then my life went to different levels of drinking and drugging for years. I never associated that with my encounter, but now maybe I think this could be part of my drinking problems. I'm now 30 plus years sober. You're a strong individual. Good for you. I got sober at 28 and went to Alaska after 2 years being sober, and I sent you an experience I had with Orcas in another email. About the other things I didn't tell was about my experiences there. Other than that, I'd broken down in one of the boats. Another know-it-all junior guide had put fuel in the boats that morning, but didn't put the oil in when he did, so the motor blew and locked up. Crossing Orca Inlet outside Cordova where I worked, paddle to shore and hike over the hill through the forest to get back to camp. Cordova. I think I've been to Cordova. Crawling over the blowdowns and moss, watching for bears and whatever else, I made good time. Then at the top I became aware of something. My sixth sense kicked in. I couldn't see anything, but I knew I needed to get down the hill to camp. And by the way, you know what I mean by hill. It was about a 3-hour trek through only a 2-mile stretch of woods. Got back to camp all good. Then my Orca experience. The evening rounds in my sea dory to stock up outpost camps with fuel and such for customers, crossing the bay that evening, absolute glass across the water, 9-ish, and I could see a spray of a pod of orcas stop, turn off the boat, and climb up on the roof to watch. The pod turned and came straight towards me from about 500 plus yards away. The cows and calves broke water about 50 yards behind the boat and went directly under me. I could see them swimming under the boat, spinning and rolling as went by. They came up for another breath about 50, 75 yards away from the front of the boat. Wondering where the bull went, when he blew out his exhale maybe 15 feet off the aft. It scared the shit out of me and swung around the side on the surface. His dorsal was a couple of feet taller than I am, standing 8 or so feet off the waterline. He stopped parallel to me and rolled to his side and looked straight at me. We locked eyes for what seemed a long time to me, probably only seconds, maybe a minute, but again seemed way longer than that. Then he rolled down and away to swim on with his pod, whom were circling out in front of the boat now. I told a local First Nations Eyak Indian friend that was a beachcomber, and he had me go meet his chief to tell him my story to him. The chief told me that that was a very special thing, and that they seek those encounters as natives, but that I would be connected to that animal for the rest of my life. Now after that I had some customers out fishing at the mouth of a larger creek on one of the inlets, and we always had Margaret and the kids, sow brown bear with 3 cubs, come out on the flats across from us while we fished the opposite shore, 300 to 400 yards away. And there was a young boar maybe a quarter mile up the creek also, not close enough to worry too much over. This day I was watching the customers fish. As I was getting shore lunch cooked and ready, when I got the hair on the back of your neck electric feeling of something watching us, close. I turned to look up through the forest maybe 30 yards behind me, and I could see nothing. It was super dark in there. I turned back around to check the customers and bears. Customers were oblivious. Boar upstream was gone, and Margaret was standing up on her back legs looking directly at me or just past me. I looked behind me again, nothing. Looked back at Margaret. Now the kids were up looking. I'm thinking big bear. Gun is in my hand. As I looked up through the trees, it looked like the curtain in a theater being lifted up and seeing the sunlight and the woods opening up to even seeing blue sky through the limbs as if all had cleared away. Then as I turn back around again, I see my pod of orcas out maybe 200 yards off the shoreline cruising by. The feeling went completely away, and Margaret and the kids were now down feeding again, and the boar upstream was back on the opposite shore. So we will, I do believe my spirit animal orca came and sent whatever was their way. I must say there were several of those experiences that happened less intense, but it happened nonetheless. The rest of that season. I, like most of the rest of us, are grateful you are out there doing what you do for all those who aren't sure how to unpack this burden. I, like the rest of us, are grateful that you're out there doing what you do for all those that aren't sure how to unpack this burden. Excuse me. Look forward to hopefully doing my bucket list double sheep hunt in Alaska when the time is right, and maybe with you as a guide. As said before, condolences for your loss of Mr. Macaroni. You're a great steward of your animals as witnessed by your videos. Take care, keep doing what you do as long as you want to. Use my name if you want. Carl Stillwell, Metro Atlanta, Georgia. P.S. The wife has your book coming Saturday. Okay, man. Oh, look at that. You've got the hoodie on. You're a Club and No Return member. And you got a couple of monster frickin' bucks there too, man. Those are nice looking deer. Alright, gotcha. Oh man, I wish I could remember the name of the outfitter I went up and met. Good guy. His wife was killed in a road rage accident in Alaska. That sounds familiar. And he is one hell of a seasoned outfitter. He's got a camp in Cordova. And we hunted browns with him. I filmed on Apaganak, which is right beside Kodiak Island. Man, I can't remember his name right now. Damn it. But anyway, alright, well thanks for that email. If you've had anything else happen, or if you learned anything else, it might help somebody. You know the routine, right? Get it to me and share it with all the people through me, or at least share it somewhere, right? But anyways, it's late in the day. It's funny, reading these stories almost like bedtime. It's starting to make me feel kind of tired and groggy and sleepy. Normally I do this first thing in the morning, my coffee, right? I am done. My eyes are full of dirt from climbing underneath that Tahoe and getting that gas tank out. And I gotta get going. Dinner time. Animal dinner time. Share my story at howtohunt.com. And if you got it in you to save to share 50 cents or a buck or whatever you got, and let's get this family together for one last hurrah before their family member passes on to the next adventure, alright? I threw down some money. Hopefully I can encourage you guys to help as well. I know we've had a handful of GoFundMe's come here, right? But there's a big audience here. There's a lot of kind, generous people here, and so the least I can do is at least share those GoFundMe's when they come around, and see if we can help some people. All right. Okay. I shall return. I hope I'm not forgetting pictures. I always forget the pictures. Man, I'll be back. Always keep the backup camera handy.